If you take a look at speedrunning leaderboards and look at some top runners, you will notice one thing that many top runners have in common. They do run more than their primary games. They might not always have amazing times in most of them, or any at all beside their main game, while others might have quite respectable times in multiple speed games. Considering that they are often not known for their times in these other games, that raises the question, why do speedrunners who already have a primary speed game that they are famous for want to play more than one speed game? In today's video, I will try my best to answer this question from my own experience, and maybe at the end of this video, you yourself might be curious about trying out a new speed game. Before we go into the main bit of the video, I have a couple of disclaimers. This is another one of my highly personal videos with more personal advice in. This is not technical advice and is therefore not strongly applicable to everyone. Yet I am going to try to make this as broad as possible, but as this is quite a subjective matter, it would be impossible to make it applicable to everyone. This video does also not assume much else than that you are a speedrunner, and it does not expect you to have any prior technical knowledge. Although, to start to run a new game, it is good to know how to get into starting to run a new speed game, especially if you plan to make it a secondary game rather than your primary one, as the approach would be slightly different there. With that said, let us go into the video. If speedrunning is an art form, what category you run is the paint you draw, and which genre you specialize in is your art style. Speedrunning takes a lot of time to master to the point where you can finally perform a run that you are truly happy with, and that is so impressive that people are left speechless by looking at it. So why would you stray from the picture you're currently painting, and even worse, leave your current art style to try out something new to you that you have absolutely no experience with? There are several reasons to do this and take that first step to broaden your horizons in terms of what games you want to speedrun. The maybe most important thing that drives people who initially start to delve into new speed games to do so is the fact that running the same game over and over again is not exactly for everyone. And even for people with an affinity for playing the same game over and over again, it might over time still become stressful and dull after a year or two of constantly playing the same game day after day. This stress can affect your performance and your enjoyment of speedrunning as a whole, which can eventually make you end speedrunning altogether due to the stress. If this stress starts to creep up, what is the best course of action, do you think? To stop speedrunning for a bit? To push on, risking to lose the passion for the game in the process as you do minimal progress as you feel forced to run rather than you enjoy it? Or to take a short, well-deserved break, learning another speed game to keep yourself speedrunning and improving? I know that for me, that third alternative is much more preferable than the other two, as that lets me keep on improving some important non-game specific related skills to speedrunning, while still taking a well-needed break from a game I know I ultimately love playing, but that has just been too much the last couple of weeks. While this is probably the primary reason why many first starters look outside their main game to scratch a speedrunning itch, there are some other really good reasons why you should look into speedrunning other games to improve at the game that is your main game as well. The most primary thing is a thing called transferable skills. There are skills and abilities that you learn within other games that can be transferred into your main game of choice, that you might never have started to learn properly while running that game, that gives you a very slight edge while going back to running the game. The reason why you might not have learned it during your main game despite it being a useful skill there can be plenty. The most likely thing though is because there is so much else going on in that game that developing that skill falls too much into the background. One skill in particular I can think of myself that I learned while running another game that proved vital to me in one of my primary speed games once I returned is aiming. In Bleed 2, aiming is quite important to quickly lock onto your target, or for certain attacks that requires one strong shot to be launched. While this is an important skill, in Bleed 2, this does not even play second fiddle next to movement, dodging and reflecting enemy attacks. It might sound really weird, but due to the nature of the game, while aiming is always important, poor aim isn't nearly as punishing as failing those other parts, which means that, at least in my mind, it is never really something that I treat as the primary thing to put focus on while training for the game. However, when I speedrun Yoshi's Crafted World for a bit, some of the aiming mechanics in Bleed 2 became far more relevant. In this game, movement in itself is quite simple, and there is rarely a lot going on the screen. However, one of the primary tricks in the game for speedrunners, egg bouncing, requires spot-on aim and timing to succeed with, meaning that in that game, it becomes extremely important to perform good aiming to get great times. I am not gonna lie, aiming was never and will never be my personal strongest suit in speedrunning. However, after playing Yoshi's Crafted World, I noticed I became far better at Bleed 2 due to the fact that aiming was always my biggest weakness in that game. And Yoshi's Crafted World forced me into hard training for my aiming, which helped me lower my times by far once I returned to the game. It was to the point that after a long hiatus from the game, I PB'd by a large amount and set a new world record for the time, right on my first stream back. I am not going to pretend like that would not have happened had I not took a detour to another speed game for a couple of months. However, it would not have been with that aiming. At that point, it was just to improve the movement, which you are quite naturally inclined to do while running Bleed 2. You get some even stronger times afterwards. Sometimes it is not as big as in this example here, but most games have something that it truly tests the player on. And sometimes it can even be a large difference between the same genre, or even between different categories of the same game. While you will rarely learn more relevant things for your speed game by running another game, you might learn things that would have taken far longer to learn by just pushing that one game. These transferable skills are also extremely useful in learning future speed games as well, and as you learn more and more speed games, you will notice that you start to have an easier and easier time learning new ones as your skill set as a speedrunner grows and gets more varied. Another huge bonus of testing out new speed games that is rarely spoken about or thought about is that it is a good way for you to find a new main speed game that you like. It might be hard to believe, but what game people have as their main speed game is quite often not their first speed game. And a lot of people do think that at the start of their career, that their first game they speedrun will be their main game forever. This is, however, very rarely the case. Often it takes a couple of games for a speedrun to find what game is right for them. And while I know that the saying that the grass is greener on the other side is not quite true in reality all of the time, what is the probability that you found the best speed game for you on your first try? Yeah, minimal at best. Therefore, trying out new speed games when you start to feel burnt out can actually help you find new speed games you much prefer over the ones you are currently running. Do never be afraid to explore with speedrunning, be it with new strats or new games. While I know it can be scary and seem like a daunting task to learn a new speed game, you have learned a speed game once before and you can do it again and again and again to gain some variety in what you run, and each time you learn a new speed game, it will become easier and easier to learn the next. I believe in you. Dare to spread your wings into new unknown territory and bring back those experiences in the games you are already familiar with. I believe in you. What do you think about this? Do you have any other reasons why to try out some new speed games? Or do you have any stories to share about when you took a break from your main game to try out a new speed game? And if so, what was your experience? Leave your thoughts and stories in the comment section below, as I would love to hear what you all have to say on this topic. Also, feel free to subscribe to my channel for more gaming and speedrunning related content in the future. If you have been convinced by this video and want to spread your wings, but have no idea where to fly, please feel free to watch my video to the left where I go through a method I use whenever I am in doubt of what game to speedrun next. If you do know what you want to run, but need a refresher on how to start speedrunning a new game, I do have a video targeted towards beginner speedrunners on how to start running a new speed game that you could use as an inspiration and guidance on how to start running your new speed game. Until next time, play the flags and stay cute and wonderful, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now and see you then.